And to Super Eagles now, where the Super Eagles of Nigeria considered a late call to share spoils with Saudi Arabia in a friendly match that ended 2-2 on Friday. Kelechi Iheanacho came off the bench to give Nigeria the lead in the 81st minute after the West Africans went behind. Saudi had taken the lead in the hour mark after goalkeeper Francis Uzoho mishandled a corner kick flick, flicking the ball into his own net. But 13 minutes later, the Saudi Arabian goalkeeper deflected Victor Boniface's strike to level scores for Jose Pesero's boys. The Super Eagles then conceded a free kick on the edge of the box deep into added time. Nigeria will now play Mozambique in another friendly match on Monday as they prepare for the 2023 African Cup of Nations and the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. Well, joining me now from Lagos is our sports correspondent Aaron Akiri-Jola and Omar Akatuba, a sports journalist who joins from Portugal. Well, thank you so much, Aaron and Omar, for joining me on the show. Well, Nigeria.
Aaron looks too serious.
I don't know. Well, Nigeria. Nigeria had action. Nigeria had action against Saudi Arabia yesterday. And, well, it ended in 2-2. Both shed the spoils. Talk to me about this, Omar. How did you rate this game?
I saw a game of two teams still basically struggling. I saw a game of two teams with so many gray areas. But, of course, the Super Eagles, a bigger team, a team with better players in terms of where they play. And but it was an okay game. Both teams, 2 goals apiece. They tried to express themselves. Nigeria got better in the second half. After the change was made, after Victor Osimhen was taken off, not because he didn't do well, because somehow the team became fluid, the attack became freer, more players started to express themselves more. I noticed in the first half, they wanted to go through Victor at every point in the game, and there was so much focus on Victor by the Saudi Arabians because they know him, of course. They came here trying to prove to him that, hey, we beat Argentina, so what do you think you are? So they made life difficult for him, and unfortunately got a knock and he was substituted. And just to add, he's done his MRI today, and I'm sure that they'll check him up and see what the situation is. But back to the game, I think that it was an interesting game. But of course, a game that underscores the fact that there's so much work to be done. And to know that the Afcon is around the corner, it makes you a bit worried.
Well, talking about those worries, Aaron, Nigeria was in action, like you already know. What was the take home from that game between Saudi and Nigeria? 2-2 draw, goals from both ends. But how would you consider that game?
Positive points, understanding that for a brief moment, I feared the Super Eagles could not pull themselves out of the jaws of defeat and actually stage a comeback. They were able to do that. And another thing is, tactically, Jose Pesero knows how to move his chess pieces around in the attacking position, because we do have in abundance in the midfield and attacking position players that can execute, and he was able to put that on display. But the one that everyone queries, the one that everyone actually are scratching their head about, has to be that particular one, talking about no other than the goalkeeping position. And it's unfortunate that once again this particular problem rears its ugly head. A lot of people are asking the question, why did Uzoho start that particular game? Maybe he might have shown more promise during practice. But Uzoho doesn't have game time under his belt. He's barely played for Armenia this season. And it begs to answer, because when you see that particular error, it only shows that he hasn't gotten enough game time. And questions will be asked time and time again. It's unfortunate that this goalkeeping problem is still rearing its ugly head. We shouldn't be at this point, at this moment in time. Shame on all those goalkeepers we do have, because all you need to do is to just rise to the occasion with a lot of confidence, with a lot of boldness, and stake a claim for that shirt and you nail it down. That we've had 5, 6, 7 players not being able to pick up that shirt it's very disgraceful. Now, you should know the reason why I say that is when Vincent Yama started with the Super Eagles, Vincent Yama wasn't as prolific as he was, but he grew in confidence and he was able to rise to the occasion, and he became one of the best in Africa.
Well, I'm still talking about these issues. Omar, you had an interview with Pesero, but I want to listen to these talks by Pesero about the goalkeeping problems and come back to discuss more on this.
When they do mistakes, it's my responsibility. Because in Nigeria, I don't know if in Nigeria can provocate that situation. Because the goalkeepers never play free, never play tranquility. Because the people, I don't know why, attack the goalkeeper every time. Why don't attack the strikers when they lose the ball or lose the goal? Why? Every time when I arrive here, I remember, attack the striker. Okay, change the goalkeeper because he did it. And the goalkeeper don't feel comfortable. I arrive here, I spoke with them, all of them. No one feel comfortable because everybody attack them. Okay, could do mistake, is my responsibility. The next time I need to train better him.
Well, for you, Omar, what ran through your mind when Pesero came out to say this? Because he is saying no need to attack the goalkeeper, but you are using this same goalkeeper, and he's probably even putting fears in the minds of his defenders, because we know the defense is usually as good as the person at the back.
Even the reason I asked him the question is that Nigerians have constantly complained about the poor goalkeeping personnel that we have. And to be very honest, they are not away from the truth. We've had problems in the goalkeeping area, and this has persisted for almost 3 years now. And that is also the reason why Maduka came into the picture when Nigeria was having goalkeeping crisis. It looked good, and at some point things went pear-shaped, and it was attacked, by the Nigerian populace, and that kind of affected his mentality and psyche to a very large extent, because I speak to him a lot. I actually spoke to him a few minutes before coming into the room to do this live interview. You could see a young man who is still pondering on his entire national team experience. It really affected him, and that is the same story with other goalkeepers. What I think Pesero has done is to exhibit great leadership qualities by taking responsibility, but nonetheless, the personnel on the pitch must also take responsibility themselves. I know you're trying to deflect attention from the player, which is fantastic. But the truth is, being a goalkeeper, being a footballer, playing for the Nigerian national team means that you must be ready to accept criticisms. And like I said, the criticisms aren't unjust. Nigerian goalkeepers have to upgrade, they have got to do better. And like Aaron said, they're not playing at their clubs. And this also includes Maduka Okoye. So I think that we need to pray and hope that our goalkeepers start to get regular playing time at club level, because that is what we see affect them at the national team. If you're not playing at your club, you become rusty. So that is the biggest problem we have right now. We don't have goalkeepers playing regularly for their clubs in Europe. So perhaps we need to spread our search nets and go look for Nigerian goalkeepers anywhere they are. But then again, the Nigerian league has over 20 clubs. I don't see why we cannot give the local leagues a chance to produce us a goalkeeper or two who are quality, who have got reflexes, who can solve this goalkeeping crisis. We've done it in the past. We've resorted to the local league and we've seen results. We can do it again. We don't have to get goalkeepers from Europe. So overall, I think that the coach exhibited great leadership quality, but then again, the criticisms are normal, and that's what comes with playing for the national team.
Now, Aaron, Nigeria, these are friendly games, and Nigeria will also take on Mozambique. But from what you have seen, this is preparation for the Afcon and obviously for the World Cup qualifiers, which should take place in November. What areas are we lacking? What areas is Super Eagles lacking? Because we know that there are about 8, 9 forwards doing well in Europe, but there are other departments that are also lacking, Aaron.
If you'd ask me, a lot of people have been overstating the fact that we are top-heavy and do not have that balance down below. Now, that's down to tactics and techniques. The truth is this: if you know that you're proficient in one particular position on the field of play, you should focus on that particular position, because, of course, there is this style, or there is this techniques and tactics that says that the subjects, if you're talking about in the education sector, the subjects you're not good on, you practice more on those subjects. But no, for proficiency and mastery, you focus on your strengths rather than on your weakness. Barcelona did that to great effect. When you look at a typical Jose Mourinho side, he did that to great effect. We are very proficient, sharp as razor, and top of the tip in spear when it comes to our attacking proficiency. That is what the coach should build this team on, and hope that he can get average performances from all other teams. We've seen teams that are not good enough, but one thing is clear, one thing is certain, which is the fact that they will outscore you. And if he can probably imbibe that particular mindset into the players, it is not a curse, or it is not a disadvantage that we have proficient guys up front. We should use that to our advantage like we did yesterday. We're on the back foot. He made some tweaks here and there, and those players delivered. But it will be a game of fine margins. How do you hold a lead? It will be the big question. But one thing I would actually employ is go out there and ensure you utilize your strengths to the max. If the coach can actually do that, get the formation that will get 4 or 5 goals, who knows? We might be able to get to dizzy heights when it comes to the World Cup and also the Nations Cup in January. We need to state that rather than focusing on what we don't have. What we don't have with the national teams, there is little or nothing you can do. But you need to focus on what you really have to ensure that you pull out the best from those guys.
Well, Aaron, we'll see how that pounds that, but we will go on a break, and when we return, we have plenty more on these issues. So stay with us. Well, still on the draws, Nigeria's Sports Minister John Eno is expressing high expectations for the Super Eagles in the upcoming African Cup of Nations. Speaking to State House correspondents after meeting with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja, Eno anticipates that the team will not only advance from their group, but also aim to win the tournament.
In terms of the group that Nigeria has, Nigeria belongs in the Afcon tournament in Cote d'Ivoire. For a team and for a country that has the desire and the determination to win the African Cup of Nations again after several years, what it means is that Nigeria was prepared for any group whatsoever. Call it the group of death, call it whatever you want to call it. But I think that, and that is why one of the the initiatives that I brought to brief Mr. President had to do with Let's Do It Again campaign. The idea is that, even the campaign alone is going to be like a moral booster to our football team, to urge them on. By the time they leave for the Cup of Nations and they are able to appreciate the fact that the whole country is behind them, the whole country is backing them, it provides that added firepower in them. So my response to that is that I don't expect that the country will not emerge, from that group, because the country's plan and determination is to win the Afcon Cup and bring it to Nigeria.
Well, so many hopes for Nigeria at the Afcon 2023, which will take place next year, January 2024. But we're looking at Nigeria's chances at the Afcon, and bearing all that had happened leading on to this tournament, which took place in January. I'm still joined by our sports correspondent, Aaron Akirijola, and Omar, who is in Portugal, there, the venue of the matches played. I'll begin with you, Aaron. Aaron, we've seen the draws for the Afcon, and we've seen Nigeria's performances leading to this Afcon. Aaron, Nigeria is tied or drawn against Ivory Coast. What are the odds?
We're hoping that one way or the other, the Super Eagles should be able to advance from Group A as group winners or runners-up in that particular group. But one thing is certain, the Super Eagles should be able to scale out of that particular group. It's unfortunate we'll be going against the host, and of course they will have home advantage. So that particular second game, all right, in the knockout phase will be very crucial. The second game in Group A will be very, very crucial. But the Super Eagles, if you would ask me, I think they can. Now, tournaments like this are always a slippery slope. It never pans out as you expect. Factors will need to come into place for you to be able to win a tournament. Because when you look at it, before Ivory Coast won it in 2015, the golden generation tried everything humanly possible to be able to win it. And maybe it took the retirement of Didier Drogba or the entrance of Javier Renard as coach to make that happen. But when you look at it, it's always down to, first of all, who wants it the most? And then also, are the draws favorable to you? And a bit of luck, a sprinkle of luck would always go a long way. So I'm hoping that all these three factors and several other major factors, like players fully fit, would actually help the Super Eagles. Because remember in 2013 when we took on Ivory Coast, no one on the continent of Africa believed that the Super Eagles will be able to beat Ivory Coast. But in that particular game, the Super Eagles wanted it the most. And they went for it, and the rest is history. Well, let's see how things play out. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I want us to do well. Saying that we must win it is putting unnecessary pressure on the team. If we go in there and take it game by game, because for you to be the best, you have to beat the best at some point in the tournaments.
Omar, Nigeria, I think like Aaron has already said, there's already the Let's Do It Again campaign, the hashtag flying everywhere. And we know how it is when there's pressure on the shoulders of any team or any individual to actually get there. And according to Aaron, he is saying that the Eagles should take it game by game. Now, they have teams that have developed themselves in the past 1 or 2 years in Africa, and Nigeria is facing one of them. And looking at these African teams that have qualified in total, what are the chances for Nigeria to even do well before we speak about winning the tournament proper?
I think that we've got a good chance. I think that, going by the quality of players that we have, you want to imagine that we would somehow scale through the group. I can't remember the last time Nigeria participated at the Afcon and didn't qualify out of the group. Even in our worst moment, we still managed to get out of the group. Look at what happened in 2013. It was a very poor tournament until we faced Ivory Coast. And the team took off from there and went on to win the tournament. So I think that we will scale through. But of course, with due respect to Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau, we would put in our best. Ivory Coast, the host nation, they've not really been super spectacular. After the days of Drogba, after they won the tournament, they've also experienced some kind of dip. But you must also agree that they've got also quality players, and they'll be playing at home. They'll be playing in front of their, home supporters. They will be very vociferous, and of course, cheering their players on. I was speaking with Alex Iwobi not quite long before coming into the room to do this interview, and he said to me that to win a tournament, you've got to be the best. You've got to play against the best, just like Aaron said, that you've got to play against the best, that they know that they're playing against Ivory Coast, the host nation, but they're not coming here to talk down or talk up any nation. They will just go there and do their best. And they believe that Nigeria has got what it takes to get out of that group. I think that Ivory Coast and Nigeria will qualify. No disrespect to Equatorial Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. If they were in Nigeria's group, maybe I would have given them a chance. But I've got to be patriotic, eh?
I'm looking at it, Aaron. Nigeria played against Guinea-Bissau in the qualifiers. We saw what happened in Abuja and what also happened in Guinea-Bissau. Should there be a chance that there's a repeat? Because we know that we've always been speaking about how good or how bad the team is. But let us look at Nigeria or the Super Eagles as a team, not as a handpick. Looking at this team, how good do you think they are?
AB, I must say to you that when you're going into a tournament, and now the point is this: the way you structure yourself for a league or for a qualifier is quite different from the way you structure yourself for a tournament, because in qualifiers you have opportunities to redo, you have opportunities to actually take a second bite at the cherry again. But when it comes to major tournaments, you do not get second chances. And what you should do, like I still insist, is go into the game hoping to get 3 points out of the game, and more importantly, probably looking at the permutations. Because sometimes finishing top of the group might be a huge disservice to you, and finishing second in the group might be a huge benefit to you. You need to take it game by game and approach the tournament as it comes. We've seen big teams, like we saw in the last World Cup, the likes of Belgium, the likes of Germany, exited the World Cup at the group phase because they would have looked at their group and said to themselves that this should be a walkover. And they're thinking of the knockout phase and what they might be facing in the knockout phase, forgetting the very present danger in front of them. And I'll still insist, what we saw in the qualifiers is different from tournament mode. When you get into tournament mode, it is eat or be eaten. So usually you take it game by game. If the coach uses what happened in the qualifiers to judge or to decide how to approach the game, he has something different coming for him.
Omar, looking at African football, we know that it's highly not the same with European football, because so many would think that Choupo-Moting will be a confirmed starter above Abubakar because of the team he plays in. And now looking at the setup of Nigerian team, what would you say, or would you say is your preferred choice when it comes to players on the lineup?
I mean, it to be counterproductive for me to say I prefer this player over that player, because I don't want to have problems. Because, what we say is taken, sometimes out of context. And, these people are watching and they might think that you have your favorite. But of course, what I would say is that the coach must go with form. Of course, to get the best out of every tournament, you must go with your best hand. And any Nigerian player who is doing well at his club at the period of the tournament must be given premium, must be given the chance to play. I would not like a situation where you are going to the tournament and you are inviting players who are not in form, who are not doing well for their clubs, except that in the goalkeeping area, we almost have no choice because all our goalkeepers, they are all not playing their clubs. So if you want to go by that, you are going to the tournament without a goalkeeper. So, but overall, I think that it has to be based on form, based on application, because like you said, the Cameroon example is a very fantastic one, where Choupo-Moting plays for Bayern. Abubakar, as at then, was playing even in Saudi Arabia, but at the Afcon was their most important player and scored very important goals for Cameroon. So, and like you said, the national team is a totally different kettle of fish entirely compared to club football, because obviously at club football, you have more cohesion, you play together for a longer time, and you play with due respect to better quality players. So it's easier to really express yourself as you would. So I think that the coach should look at the players who want to give their all whenever they are called up, players who apply themselves diligently and efficiently, and that would help us get the best team. And overall, quality must be taken absolutely seriously.
Well, before I wrap up on this conversation, Aaron and Omar, I'll begin with you, Aaron. Nigeria will take on Mozambique on Monday, and we know that Mozambique is in the region of teams like South Africa and Lesotho and all of that. What are your expectations from this game? We know it's a friendly, but what do you expect to see on Monday against this team?
I'm expecting a blowout, maybe a 4-1 victory, if you'd ask me, because we should be able to take Mozambique to the cleaners. Jose Pesero will need to get a major win under his belt. He's been okay in the qualifiers, but in friendly games, his record is awful. He needs to make a statement like he did with Sao Tome and Principe, home and away. He needs that statement win against Mozambique.
For you, Omar, what are your thoughts on the Mozambique's game?
Okay. I will talk much about my expectation rather than my thoughts. I would expect to see a team that would express themselves more going forward, because we have a lot of players going forward, and the coach seems to be quite confused as to how to deploy these players. I've seen that in the way he played yesterday. And just to add that Victor Osimhen might not play because of the knock yesterday. He's done his MRI today. The coach is trying to be careful because he said yesterday that we've got to respect the club. Napoli Football Club, I've been in touch with him. He says that after every game, they send a report. They send, a report to the club in terms of the medical condition of their players. So they are in touch with Napoli. They might be telling them to not play against Mozambique, which I think will be a blessing, actually, because all the other attackers will have the chance to play, and we want to see how they can play with each other. Kelechi Iheanacho, just to also say, has left the camp. He has personal issues to sort out. So one player is out. Kelechi is out. Victor might not play. So the other guys, Terren Murphy, Sadiq Umar, Moses Simon, and other guys will be able to express themselves, and then the coach will be able to see something different. Because as we lead towards the Afcon, he is also tinkering, trying to find the best formation, best collection of players to play in the front line of Nigeria. So that is what I want to see against Mozambique, how they will play together, and of course, who will play in the midfield, how the midfield will also coordinate the defense and the attack, because that's a critical part of the Nigerian team, which sometimes still calls for concern. And of course, I want to see who will be in goal. Maybe Maduka will get a chance. Maybe Adele, who arrived from Israel, will get a chance. It remains to be seen. But I think that they should give the other guys a chance. We have seen enough of Uzor. We know him so well. And let's also give him a breathing space. Maybe give the other two guys an opportunity to also be lambasted. Anyway, that's a joke. An opportunity to express themselves.
We'll see what happens in the next game.
I like your outfit, by the way. I like your outfit.
Thank you so much, Omar. I think we should. Thank you. Supporting Nigeria. Anyways, I think we should move away from.
Today is not our Independence Day.
Okay, we'll go to the women now. Definitely for the women. Well, securing a spot at the 2024 Olympic Games is the next target for the Super Falcons of Nigeria as they take on Ethiopia in a two-legged qualifying fixture. The Falcons will aim to qualify for the football event of the Olympics for the first time since their 2008 edition. Nigeria has not been represented at the women's football event of the Olympics since 2008. The Falcons failed to qualify for the last three editions, 2012, 2016 and 2020, after losing to Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea and Ivory Coast on those occasions. The NFF on Monday called up 22 players for the game between Ethiopia and Nigeria, with goalkeeper Chiamaka Nadozie, defenders Osinachi Ohale and Michelle Alozie, forward Asita Oshoala, and midfielders Christy Uchebe and Rashida Ajibade headlining the list. Ethiopia will host the first leg of the two-legged fixture in Addis Ababa on Wednesday 25th October, with the second leg in Nigeria on Tuesday 31st October. Nigeria, the 9-time defending champions of Africa, had a bye after Sao Tome and Principe's senior girls withdrawal, while Ethiopia defeated Chad in the opening round of the series. At the end of November, the third round of that series will pit the Falcons against their Cape Verdean opponents, with Falcons' round of 16 exit at this year's Women's World Cup and their fourth place position at the last year's Women's African Cup of Nations. The head coach, Randy Waldrum, has a mandate to get the Falcons back to the zenith. Earlier this year, Nigeria's under-23 boys failed to qualify for the Olympics. Now, Nigeria will hope that the Paris 2024 will not be a repeat of Tokyo 2020, where both male and female football teams failed to pick tickets. Well, very briefly on this video, Nigeria has been trying severally after 2008, the last time they were at the Olympics, to qualify, and they stand a chance. Aaron, we saw what happened at the World Cup, and we know that most of these players will be partaking at the Olympics qualifiers. What are the chances? What difference would we see or should we see for Nigeria to be at the Olympics? Because we've seen several qualifications that you think Nigeria would just scale through and they fall by the roadside. So what are your thoughts?
We're hoping that they take it seriously, because if they do, I think they have more than enough within their time to actually qualify for the World Cup. Now, the point is this. As it stands right about now, I must say that the Super Falcons, first of all, or the Nigeria Football Federation did the right thing, did the sensible thing, ate the humble pie by calling Randy Waldrum back. Because before the World Cup, they accused him of lacking direction, they accused him of several things, ineptitude, not knowing what he was doing, but he went to the World Cup and proved the doubters and the naysayers wrong. Right now, one thing is certain, that the coach probably, we're looking at the very best of hands when it comes to the Super Falcons in a very long time. The World Cup qualifier shouldn't be a problem. Now, the big question is, will the players take it serious enough to be able to qualify? It's in their hands. And if you'd ask me, I think this should be easy breezy. This is where that jinx actually comes to an end, and the Super Falcons begin to shine like a million stars. After all, the defending champions when it comes to the Olympics could not beat the Super Falcons at the last World Cup. Think about that.
Well, talking about that to Omar, we already know that the boys are not at the Olympics and the girls stand a chance to be at the Olympics. At the last edition, both male and female football teams for Nigeria were not at the Olympics. Should there be a repeat of this? What does it say for Nigerian football?
I mean, of course, we know where we are coming from. We hope that things are starting to get better with the new dispensation headed by Guzo. I think that a good statement would be to do everything possible to make sure the girls qualify for the Olympic Games. We know what happened in the past where the girls were treated very poorly, which also doesn't speak well of us as a nation, because girls are very special. Girls should be treated well. They don't have to be our girlfriends for us to treat them like queens. These girls actually bring pride, joy, and excitement to Nigerians, even more than the male team. The Nigerian female national team is the most successful national team in the whole of Africa. They are the most successful national team in Nigeria. They've qualified for every World Cup tournament they have attempted. That is the level of brand that we're talking about for context. So I think that we should do everything possible to make sure they qualify for the Olympics, and we should go all out to win it. I know this might be a tough ask, but I think that it has come to a time where we can start to, aspire to win the Olympics. Like Aaron said, the Olympic champions couldn't beat Nigeria at the World Cup, and we had a very good tournament at the World Cup. We lost to England on penalties. We saw how far England went. So I think that this is the time to actually consolidate on the performance of the World Cup. Like you said, the team will be predominantly the same guys that went to the World Cup, or the same girls. Don't get me out of context. So I think that we can go to the Olympics and aim to win it. We've got the team, we've got the experience. I think the time has come. And the mantra should be, let's go get it.
Well, thank you so much, Omar, for that analysis. And also, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us on Global Sports Reports, The Horizon.